Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the Ram TRX Redeye. Before we get into the video though, as always, if you're going to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. After the last video I made about the Ram TRX Redeye, I thought that we could pretty much just throw this topic into the garbage because I figured that Ram would never actually produce this truck because the TRX has been amazingly successful from a sales number perspective. We don't have official sales numbers on the Ram TRX because Ram just basically releases their Ram 1500 sales numbers as a whole. They don't go into individual packages, but based on how many VIN numbers are out there, it sounds like Ram is going to sell close to like 30,000 TRXs for the 2022 model year, which is crazy because that's like peak Raptor sales back in the day. So this truck is as popular as what the Raptor was when it was first released for the Gen 2 model year, and there was actually no issues with production back then because automakers didn't have all the supply chain issues they have today. So again, just really impressive sales numbers overall. And so you think that, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? The whole Toyota model. So they don't need to change anything because they're selling so many of them. But the thing about American automakers is it's about keeping up with the Joneses. And Ford has officially announced the new Raptor R, which produces 700 horsepower, 640 pound-feet of torque from a supercharged 5.2-liter V8 that's paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission, which, yes, those power figures are a little bit less than the Ram TRX, but power to weight ratio with the Raptor R is better because the Raptor R weighs roughly 300 pounds less than a TRX with similarly equipped trucks. People on the internet will tell you that there is a bigger weight difference between the trucks, but I have a Gen 3 Raptor with an EcoBoost powertrain, N37s, and a moonroof, and it weighs 6,000 pounds as what the door jam sticker says. My Ram TRX that has similar options to my Raptor and the Ram bar weighs about 700 pounds more. If I took away the Ram bar because my Raptor doesn't have a chase rack on it, then the weight difference would be closer to only about 500 pounds, not 700 pounds. So you add the extra 200 or so pounds for the V8 with the Raptor R, and you're only about a 300 pound weight difference between both the trucks with similar options, aka the average American. Just kidding, we're not that fat yet. I gotta put yet there because it seems like every single year the average weight just keeps on going up. But anyways, with American automakers, they're very competitive. Even if this isn't going to increase sales, they want to make sure that they have the most horsepower, the most torque, right? They want to have the craziest vehicle in every single segment. Look at the Dodge Challenger Hellcat, for example, right? The Hellcat was released for the 2015 model year, almost got my model years mixed up, and it had 707 horsepower with initial release, and Dodge sold a massive amount of them. They were extremely popular at release, and frankly they're still popular to this day. But then a few years later, Ford released the Shelby GT500 that had 760 horsepower. So Dodge said and we obviously got the Dodge, well, we got the Dodge Demon before the GT500, but then after the GT500, and well, around the same time roughly, we got the Hellcat Redeye, which was a very accessible Hellcat that has more horsepower than the GT500. So the point that I'm trying to make here is Dodge always wants to have the most horsepower in segment, and Dodge and Ram, right, same manufacturer basically. So Ram wants to make sure that they have the most horsepower in segment, but by a large margin, because if you look at the Redeye, it's like 37 more horsepower than the Shelby GT500, and if you look at the current version of the Redeye, the jailbreak version, that's another 10 horsepower, so 47 more horsepower than the GT500, so they can say that they have the manliest muscle car in the segment. So they're going to want to do the same thing with the Ram TRX, and so this is where this leads us into the Ram TRX Redeye. So with the current TRX, frankly, they kind of got to the limits of what that truck could handle from a power perspective, or so we thought. Aftermarket companies have gone in and added massive amounts of power to the TRX. Hennessy, for example, has a version of the TRX that has 1,000 horsepower, and it's reliable, and axles aren't breaking. And so guess what that means? We can easily get a Ram TRX Redeye that is reliable, that Ram can slap a warranty on, and yeah, it's gonna be a pretty fun day. So 797 horsepower, just like the Hellcat Redeye, or potentially they might go for the 800 horsepower range, because then they'd be able to say that they have the only pickup truck in segment with 800 horsepower. And I think that that is actually a little bit more realistic, because obviously Ford's saying, oh, we got 700 horsepower, and Dodge is going to be like, or not Dodge, Ram rather, is going to be like, well, we have 800 horsepower. So I think it's pretty safe to assume that is where the power figure would be. Now, From an off-road performance perspective, Ram is still going to use the Bilstein shocks, or the Blackhawk shocks. They're really good shocks. They can take massive amounts of compression forces, and they're extremely reliable shocks. One downside that I've discovered with these shocks after doing massive amounts of research is that they don't adjust quite as much as the new Fox shocks in the Ford Raptor. And so Bilstein might go in and tweak the shocks a little bit for the Redeye so that they adjust a little bit quicker, so that the TRX is a little bit more competitive from an off-road perspective compared to the Raptor, right? So there could be some changes with the shocks for this package. But the big thing is 37-inch tall tires. Now, if you just throw 37-inch tall tires on your Ram TRX, then please don't take it off-road because you're probably going to break something. But you lose travel, right? Right now the TRX with 35s has 13 inches of travel front and rear, and that's what the Raptor has with 37s. With 35s, the Raptor actually has 14 inches of travel in the front and 15 inches of travel in the rear. And so an easy way for Ram to get around this, frankly, is just cutting the fenders and adding different fender flares to the Ram TRX. And so that's most likely what's going to happen with this Redeye version of the TRX. And so it's going to be kind of like a wide body TRX in a sense, because the fender flares will be a little bit beefier to accommodate these 37-inch tall tires. And so similar to what they did with like the Hellcat wide body, right? Same kind of concept with that. And again, that's an easy way to make it so that you can fit bigger tires and you don't mess up the travel numbers. So the travel numbers with the truck can be 13 inches front and rear with 37, so they are competitive with the Raptor R. And then from an interior perspective, frankly, they don't have to change a whole lot because Ram's interior is still nicer than Ford's interior with the Raptor. I love the sporty design of the Raptor interior, but Ram's material usage is so much nicer compared to the Raptor. But obviously they'll have some custom stuff for the Redeye, like you'll have like in the gauge cluster Redeye, right? And we obviously are going to be getting a full digital gauge cluster very soon in the Ram 1500, even in the standard TRX. And so full digital gauge cluster will be another thing with the Redeye. And then, you know, some custom stuff on the seats and then also center console, but not massive changes to the interior. Now, this all sounds great and very exciting. One downside is that this truck ultimately will still weigh more than the Raptor R. And so even if they make it so the power to weight ratio is just as good as the Raptor R, you are lugging around a little bit more weight, which can be somewhat frustrating in off-road situations. But I personally do not care because I still think this package would be absolutely fantastic. So that's going to sum things up for today's video. I want you guys to let me know what you think about this package, and if Ram actually releases this package, would you purchase it, and would you purchase it over a Ford Raptor R? I guess my quick answer for that is most likely because I would actually be able to get it. With Ram, they are a lot better with making it so that vehicles are available to customers a lot, especially over the course of the pandemic. Like right now, you can just go into a Ram dealership and order a TRX if you want. If you go into a Ford dealership, you can't really order a Raptor. You have to get on a waiting list. So attainability is probably be a lot better with this package. Anyways, I'll see you.